So good afternoon and welcome to Penn's Perspectives on Company Roots. Today I am interviewing Emily Fu, a Wharton student and the co-president of the Wharton Asia Exchange. Thank you for coming on today, and it's a privilege to interview and connect with you. My name is Srish Shasti, and I'm a rising freshman at the Wharton School, and I'm from Homedale, New Jersey. The first question that I always ask is, what are your roots, and how do they help you in shaping your ideas and becoming the person you are today?
Okay, that's a good question. So I'm Emily. Right now, I'm entering my final semester at Wharton, and I originally kind of grew up in Southern California. And I actually grew up in an area where there weren't that many kind of Asians around. And I also went to a public school that was, I think to put it lightly, just not very competitive, right? So it was kind of like almost a big fish in a small pond kind of situation. But kind of throughout high school, I ended up kind of wanting to go into business or to statistics or something in college. And, I applied everywhere and I ended up getting into Wharton. And, I was like really excited because I'm like, okay, what a great school. So I'll come. And I think one of the things that I got to when I realized when I got to Wharton is that, first of all, I think this is something that everyone kind of feels is as a freshman, you feel this sense of like almost imposter syndrome. Like I felt like I'm like, oh, well, like, I feel like I don't belong. Like everyone else is so much more accomplished or has a lot more experience than I did. I went to, because I went to like a small kind of less funded high school. I didn't do FDLA, I didn't do DECA, I didn't have any internships going into college, and I felt like a lot of my peers or my classmates did, or I had this perception that like everyone else is like so well experienced and I'm not. So I felt like I kind of came in with this chip on my shoulder almost.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I have to work like twice as hard. Like I have to get into these clubs, I have to get experience. So that way, like I can kind of catch up with everyone. So one of the first clubs that I joined was the Wharton Asia Exchange. And at this time, this club was more focused on like, if you want to work in Asia or you want to learn more about Asian markets, you can kind of get into this club. And that wasn't something that I was super into. Like I was like, oh, I kind of want to stay in the US. Like my Chinese sucks. Like I cannot get around. But what I heard from other people and what I heard from other classmates was that this club had a really great community. And I I'm like, I wanted to find friends. I wanted to find mentors. I wanted to do that. So I joined this club. And that's what it ended up being. And that's one of the reasons I kind of stuck with this club and, joined board and wanted to be more involved in it, is because I felt like this club had a really great community and had allowed me to develop a lot. So, even though I felt coming into Penn, I was like, okay, like maybe I'm behind or something, because I was able to put a lot of effort into the club. Like freshman year, I was able to join board, which a lot of times you don't get that opportunity. And I think after joining the club, something that I kind of wanted to bring in was the sense of this club is less about, being a group where you can get skills if you want to work in Asia, or more about Asian markets, but more to that's how we are positioning ourselves now. Because, growing up, even though I was from California, I didn't really have that community. Most of my friends, were like, white or Hispanic, or, other races. And I felt like, having a community where I could, all of a sudden relate, like, okay, we have these similar like childhood experiences or experiences in the US, like that was really great. And then also having a community where I could find like mentors. So, I was trying to figure out like how to do recruiting, or like, how's my resume even supposed to look like? I had all these upperclassmen where I had workshops where I could kind of go into that. So yeah, those are my roots, and that's kind of how it led me to where I am now.
Cool. And for Wharton Asia Exchange, every organization that is great has an incredible team. So what qualities do you look for when building your team and recruiting for the for Wharton Asia Exchange?
Yeah. So I think for me, the most important part about and I'm sure a lot of these clubs look for, is actually people who are dedicated and consistent, right? You don't have to, like when I'm interviewing someone, you don't have to be the smartest person. Like you don't have to blow me away. But if you show me that you have like a lot of drive and that you want to kind of contribute to the club, I think that's what actually brings the most value, right? Like when I joined this club, I was definitely like, I'm not the smartest person in the room. Like I don't have like a 200% IQ, but when I really care about something, I really work towards it. And I was willing to put in a lot of time and effort and to really care about the club. I think the other thing I look for is people that bring a lot of energy in, right? So like bringing new ideas or just caring about the club. And I think that's one of the reasons why when we look at WAX or the Wharton Asia Exchange, a lot of our members are actually freshmen and sophomores. because I think that they bring so much energy and bring so much ideas to the club. In fact, this semester, obviously it's online. And then when I was meeting with board and members to discuss, like, how should we frame, like what kind of programming can we offer to people online? A lot of the juniors and seniors like me, like we were pretty jaded. We were like, man, like, is anyone even going to show up to these? Like, like what if Zoom doesn't work? Like, how do I even run these events online? But whenever I talk to underclassmen, like freshmen or the incoming freshmen that have reached out to me or sophomores on board, they're like, oh my gosh, we have to do this. Like, we can do this. We can have this virtual escape room. We need to have this like event. Like, oh, this workshop is really helpful. Let's have this online. So I think looking for that drive and that energy, and then second, that dedication to kind of follow through with those ideas. Those are the two most important things.
Definitely. And for prospective club members, how would you describe the atmosphere of the club? And what do you think is the biggest benefit about, joining, making it in?
Yeah. I think for us, we're a very community-based club. And I know, at least in Wharton, at least in my experience with a lot of the clubs, there are a lot of really great clubs out there. But for me, when I joined a lot of the other clubs, it feels like everyone is here to, put it on their resume, or like, everyone is more focused on, let's host this event and then we're done with it. But at least with my experience with Wax, I was able to, meet people, not only that we work well together, but also like after we work together, we still want to hang out together. So from the, from my Wax course from 2 years ago, like those people that I was on board with, not only do we work well together, but I still keep in touch with them. Now we still have like a group chat, and we'll like, over quarantine, we all got on and played games together. So I think for us, one, we do want to obviously be a club where we can help strengthen people's resume skills, give people professional opportunities, and provide a lot of that. And we do that through workshops, through stock pitches, through speaker events, and we have networking events. But on the other hand, we work a lot into building our community, right? So we have, on campus, we used to have a lot of smaller socials. Like, so for Chinese New Year's, I hosted like a dumpling making social, or like baking socials, or we have smaller family groups where people can join and just feel a greater sense of community. And even with our general body meetings, where it's, the entire club in one room, we always try to bring food. We always try to, even though people think it's cheesy, we try to do, forgive the construction, we try to do icebreakers at the beginning so everyone gets to know each other. One of our GBMs, we called it Wax Around the World. And what we did is we had someone from, each different part of Asia bring or make some kind of food that represented their culture, right? So we had like Thai omelets and like Malaysian curry and all these different cultures, and we got to go around sampling it. So I think on one hand, we offer a lot of professional development experience, but we also offer a great community experience, right? So mentorship and friendship.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the best part about joining a club.
Yeah.
The community-based part. In my high school, we didn't really have many clubs going on, and a lot of them were kind of inactive, so it wasn't a huge.
Yeah.
But Penn definitely seems to have like a different vibe about them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to ask some more questions based on your personal life and kind of your time at Penn. So what is the most interesting class you've taken, and how have you applied some of those lessons in your real life?
Yeah. So I would say the best class that I've taken is negotiations, and I think all the professors that teach are really amazing, but it's like cross-listed under the management and the OID department. Definitely look into it. And it just teaches you how you should negotiate and act through all these different scenarios, right? So going in, I think I'm a very like trusting person. Like, I'm like, oh, I have no reason to lie. Why would anyone else ever lie to me? So when we did these negotiations every single week, the first couple weeks, I totally got screwed over. Like, I had like the second worst deal in the entire class. And I had gone out of that deal being like, wow, I did such a great job, because I felt really happy, because I'm like, oh, I had a really good relationship with the person I was negotiating with. I thought I had a good deal. I thought everything worked out great. And then I saw how the rest of the class did, and I was like, wow, like that sucks, right? But because we did continuous practice, I realized like, okay, one, like, don't be so trusting of other people, but two, don't like flip to the other side where it's like, I'm just going to get the best deal. We learned that a lot of times, with relationship building and finding how to create, like, instead of figuring out how to get your slice of the pie bigger, figuring out how we can grow this pie and how we can both gain more value together. And I think that's helped me in a variety of situations, right? I think right now the most like top of mind thing is, going into my post-grad job, I really would like to negotiate for my salary. So some of the skills that we applied there is like, how can maybe if I can anchor at a really high starting salary, even if my manager negotiates it down, it's still really high. Or if I can, bring in all these other things and have like, or if I have, competing offers, how does that play into that? So I think that was an extremely useful class.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of some of the other classes I was doing, so I'm studying business analytics, so I'm really into like kind of statistics and data analytics, is I took a modern data mining class a couple semesters back. I think it's listed Stat 471, and this class just kind of taught me, how to code, how to implement a lot of these kind of more advanced statistical modeling techniques, and I think that was also really helpful. And then also freshman year, I took Sys 110, and I have never programmed in my life before, and it was a really difficult semester because like I was like, oh my gosh, I have a homework assignment every week. I've never coded before. I don't know what I'm doing, but I learned so much about how do I structure and break down problems and like kind of put it in a language where like computer can kind of read that, and that's helped me, even though I haven't pursued this beyond that, that's helped me so much in a lot of my other classes.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking because my courses have been kind of screwed over, I might take a
Yeah,
SIP as well. So maybe I'll look at a SIS 110.
yeah,
Um,
I would definitely recommend it.
yeah, and they have a pass fail option too. So if it is like a lot of work, I might just do that. That's great. My next question is, if you could have a sit down conversation with any one person on Penn's campus,
Hmm,
who would it be and why?
who would it be? Okay, so I could have a sit down conversation. I actually think I would sit down again with my negotiations professor. Her name is Rebecca Schomburg,
Hmm.
and I took her class I think a year ago. And just the way she lectured and her command of the room and the way she was able to incorporate her like personal experiences into the lectures, that was really valuable. And I wish I could kind of go to her and talk about the ways I've used her class in my life and maybe how I can use it more going forward.
Yeah,
I think one of the things that I want to do a better job of, and I keep telling myself this semester, each semester, is I really want to get to know my professors better and maintain that relationship with them, kind of even after leaving.
yeah. My last question for you today is, what one piece of advice would you give to current and prospective Penn students, and how would you recommend they start the process to situate themselves and become a full-fledged student here?
Yeah. I think the most important thing and the thing that I wish I kept in mind when coming to Penn is you have to find your own path, right? Don't listen to like the noise or don't look at what everyone else is doing. And maybe that'll be easier now that you guys are virtual. Like maybe that's the one silver lining. But I think when I came to Penn, I like, especially Wharton in particular, there's a very pre-professional and a very competitive and comparative environment, right? Where you're kind of like you're doing what you're doing, but then you're looking to see what everyone else is doing. Like, okay, what am I doing as well as them? Or I was looking at statistics, and around I think 50% of Wharton grads end up going into finance. Another 25% end up going into consulting. And if you like finance and consulting, you're like, this is my calling, like that's great. But a lot of times, through my conversations with my friends or the way that I feel is that sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I'm at Wharton. I guess I might as well do finance. Or like, I guess I might as well, like everyone else is going after these very few firms. Like maybe that's also what I want to do. And I think rather than kind of listening to the noise around you or listening to what everyone else is doing, just find what it is that like, makes time stop for you. Find what it is that you really want to do, and stick with that. Don't get too caught up in the noise and like the everything else that's going on, and figure out what really brings value to you, right? Like one of the questions I started asking myself this summer is like, okay, well, like if you had to do something and you weren't allowed to tell anyone else, or you didn't really care at all what anyone else thought about you, like what would you want to do at this moment? And asking yourself those questions, I think that's really valuable going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think the other thing about like kind of situating yourself at Penn is obviously like you setting up these interviews are great. A lot of clubs right now have like coffee chats and smaller get to know you events. I think just attending those and putting yourself out there. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to log on, like I'm chilling in my bed watching YouTube, but every single time I've like initiated one of these conversations, I never regret it. So I think that'll also be very helpful.